Hello and welcome to the Thursday, February 5th, 2026 edition of the SANS Internet Storm Center's Stormcast. My name is Johannes Ulrich, recording today from Jacksonville, Florida. And this episode is brought to you by the SANS.edu Credit Certificate Program in Penetration Testing and Ethical Hacking. When you're dealing with an incident like you find an infected system, the problem, probably the hardest thing in incident response, is always figuring out if you found everything that's wrong with the system. And let's have a little example here that Xavier posted about today. Initially, this looked, well, like an infostealer that is injected into Chrome in order to steal data. So nothing really all that fancy. And this is where someone may have stopped investigating, but not so Xavier. Xavier dove deeper into the script and found that at the end, it actually then downloads another image. Now, this image is at first sight a legitimate image. It looks like sort of one of those wallpapers for fans of MSI motherboards, I guess. And but it does have additional code added at the end. And that then installs, well, more malware. So after the initial malware runs and keeps running, it then installs xworm as an additional payload. The other reason why this sometimes happens is just in case antivirus would catch the first part, well, maybe the second makes it through. So that's also one reason why an attacker may do that. In this case, I think it's probably more that they, well, try to get more out of the system, and adding a couple lines to the existing script was sort of an easy way to expand the capabilities of their malware. And CISA warns of an interesting critical vulnerability in Synectix LAN 232 Trio 3-port serial to Ethernet adapters. I'm actually not sure why this is something that is actually being discovered, because what it's all about is that the web admin interface just doesn't require any authentication. So without authentication, a hacker, of course, has full control over the device, may change settings, may reset the device to factory defaults. So pretty obvious vulnerability, and sadly, no patch available as far as I know. These kind of Ethernet to serial adapters I came first across in some sort of remote console access equipment, and they have been a problem. One of the issues here is that literally the entire device, including the web server, literally fits into an Ethernet RJ45 plug. So these are very minimal devices, and as a result, with often minimum security and even things like encryption protocols. So don't expose them is probably the best bet you have here. And Google also released updates for Google Chrome, fixing two vulnerabilities. One of them is a heap buffer overflow in libvpx, and the other one is, well, yet another type confusion in V8, Google's JavaScript engine. So keep Google Chrome updated, as I always say. Keep restarting it at least once a day and once a week. Double check that you are running the latest version. And then we do have two severe vulnerabilities that Tenable discovered in the Google Looker tool. Now, I wasn't familiar with the on-premise version. I've used the Looker Studio, which is the cloud version of the tool. But essentially, a tool allows you to create reports, graph, and other sort of representations of business data, and it connects to a database to do that. Well, these vulnerabilities, first of all, there are some Git path traversal issues. You can define various sort of graphs and reports and then import them via Git, but the path is not properly verified here. So additional Git repositories may be included. And then with Git hooks, you can, essentially execute arbitrary code. Update it if you're running it on-premise yourself. If you're using the cloud version, Google already took care of it for you. So nothing that you necessarily need to do here. And we got security updates for Django. Django is a Python web application framework. There are a number of vulnerabilities they addressed. The most severe one by far here is a SQL injection vulnerability. However, it only affects post-GIS data. So if you're using Django to create some geographic information systems, then this may affect you, or anything else that sort of deals with geographic coordinates. You probably want to pay attention and update. Some of the other vulnerabilities are definitely stuff that you still want to patch. Like one, for example, allows you to enumerate users. But again, those things are always a little bit hard to prevent in your application, and I wouldn't really consider sort of a severe must patch now type vulnerability. Well, that's it for today. Just want to point out, if you want to learn more about web applications like Django and some of the vulnerabilities around them, I'll be teaching our web application security class first week of April in Orlando, and then our network intrusion detection class in Amsterdam later in April. If you're interested in any classes I teach, I always have in the show notes on the SANS and Storm Center website. So not in the show notes itself, but below that on the podcast page, a list of classes that I'll be teaching in the near future. So both of them should be listed, or just check the sans.org website. That's it for today. Thanks for listening, and talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.